Hey guys, welcome back to another video drum lesson. This time around we're going to be talking about drum fills, specifically how to play them in more interesting and musical ways. And I've got 3 tips that should really help you out with that. The ideas that I'm going to talk about are really easy to put into practice, and you'll probably find that you get instant results no matter what skill level you're at. Oftentimes as drummers, we find ourselves in places where we feel like we're playing the same old fills over and over again, and there's no real creativity anymore. And I know that I've personally had points in my drumming where I felt like I was hitting a wall, where I just wasn't able to convey what I wanted musically. I think a lot of the time what happens is we feel like we need to learn more and more complicated things and expand our vocabulary that way, and then we'll be able to play better, more musical drum fills. But over time, I've come to realize that you tend to get better results when you expand on simpler concepts. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't practice more and more complex ideas as you grow as a player, but really what tends to separate the great drummers from the rest of us is not so much that they can play more complicated things than we can, but just that they can play simpler ideas at a really high level. So that's really what we're going to focus on today. The first idea that I want to talk about is variation in the dynamics of your fills. Dynamics essentially refers to the volume of your playing, and being able to play with more dynamic variation is going to go a long way with helping your musicality. You'll find that your drum fills start to become a lot more interesting if you add variation to the volume level of your strokes. I'll go ahead and play an example for you so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. I'm going to start with just simple single strokes around the kit. That sort of thing. Okay, so that's a pretty simple fill, just single strokes going down the kit. It's all at the same volume level, which is kind of like a medium level. It works. There's nothing wrong with it necessarily, but it's not really all that interesting musically. So now what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to recommend to you to do, is introduce some variation to the volume level of the strokes. And that should make it a bit more musically interesting. Okay, so you can hear that when you play the fill that way, there's a better flow to it as you go down the toms, and it leads back into the groove better than just. It's the same exact fill. All the notes are in the exact same spot. I'm just changing the volume of the strokes. So I'm going to go ahead and do it again. I'll do it a little faster this time, and I'm going to start with the first example and then play the second example the second time around. You should hear the difference. Okay, so again, one option fills the space, it gets the job done. The other one actually adds something to it. And that's really what you want to be going for. Now, I'm not saying that you're never going to have a situation where it makes sense to play a fill all at one volume level. Let's say, for example, that you're playing like a heavy rock gig or something like that. There's probably going to be a situation where you want to play a fill all at the same volume level, but you usually won't play it at like a medium level, like usually in that kind of situation, you want to play it at the same loud level and play each stroke really deliberately. And that can sound really killer sometimes. I'll go ahead and play an example. All right, so there you go. My drum teacher when I was starting out always told me to play it like you mean it. And that's really what we're going for here. Whether it's something like that where you're just all in or you're changing it up, you want it to sound like you're really deliberate about it. I'll play another example. This time I'm just going to use the snare drum. You'll find that if you add dynamic variation, you can get a lot out of even just one voice. So I'll just play a bar of triplets, single strokes. Something like that. If I add some dynamics to it, I can make some interesting fills. So go ahead and play around with that a bit. Just change around the volume levels and the strokes and see what you can come up with. It's really going to open up a lot of options for you without really having to expand the tools that you already have.